The alarm screamed through the cargo bay as the containment field flickered red. Lieutenant Jake Morrison barely had time to dive behind a steel crate before the Kraxan death lizard smashed through the energy barrier, its crystalline scales gleaming under the emergency lights. The creature stood 12 feet tall with razor-sharp claws that could slice through reinforced titanium like paper. Captain Lisa Hayes shouted orders from the observation deck, but her voice was drowned out by the lizard's bone-rattling roar. The alien delegates from the Unified Galactic Council scrambled backward, their four eyes wide with terror. Ambassador Vextor, the tall insectoid representative, clicked his mandibles in what Jake recognized as their species' version of a scream. Jake's hand moved to his plasma rifle, but he knew it was useless. Kraxan lizards had adaptive armor that absorbed energy weapons. They were the galaxy's apex predators, exported from the death world of Kraxus Prime for gladiatorial combat and military intimidation. This particular specimen had been a gift to the station from the Thalorian Empire, meant to demonstrate their superiority over humanity's recent admission to the Council. The lizard's head swiveled toward the huddled aliens, its triple rows of teeth glistening with acidic saliva. Jake calculated the distance, 20 meters. He would never make it in time with conventional weapons. His heart hammered against his ribs as the creature tensed its powerful legs, preparing to pounce. Then he heard it, a low, rumbling growl that came from the shadows near the ventilation shaft. Every alien in the room froze. They knew that sound. It was a warning that transcended species. Max emerged from behind a stack of supply containers, his brown and white fur bristling along his spine. The 140-pound dog moved with deliberate slowness, his eyes locked on the Kraxan lizard. He was an Akita mixed with something else Jake's grandfather had never quite explained, a breed that had guarded human families for thousands of years. The alien delegates had mocked Jake relentlessly when he brought Max aboard the station 6 months ago. They called the dog a primitive companion animal, a useless relic of Earth's evolutionary past. Vexthor had laughed, his translator rendering it as a series of harsh clicks, saying that humans were so weak they needed fur-covered emotional support just to function in space. Max had ignored all of it with the same calm dignity he showed now. The Kraxan lizard noticed the dog and made a sound that might have been laughter in its own language. It turned away from the aliens, seeing easier prey. The creature had fought and killed hundreds of opponents across dozens of worlds. It had torn through armored battle drones and crushed combat mechs. A simple animal from a backwater planet meant nothing. Max's growl deepened. His lips pulled back, revealing teeth that seemed far too small compared to the lizard's daggers. But something in the dog's stance made Jake's pulse quicken with hope rather than fear. He had seen that look before, back on Earth, when a black bear had wandered too close to his sister's children. The Kraxan lizard lunged forward with terrifying speed, claws extended. Max moved faster. The dog's jaws clamped onto the creature's throat with the force of over 700 pounds per square inch. The lizard thrashed wildly, its tail whipping through the air hard enough to dent a metal support beam, but Max held on, his body swinging like a pendulum as the creature tried to shake him loose. Part 2, the observation deck erupted in chaos as the Kraxan lizard slammed Max against the cargo bay floor. The impact would have killed most creatures instantly, but the dog's grip never loosened. Jake watched in frozen amazement as Max's instincts, honed over millennia of selective breeding, kicked into full gear. This was what Akitas had been created for, to hunt bears and protect their families against impossible odds. Ambassador Vexthor's translator sputtered with incomprehensible sounds. The insectoid's compound eyes reflected the struggle below, each lens capturing a different angle of the impossible fight. Next to him, Counselor Mira Wells, the only other human representative on the station, had her hand pressed against the reinforced glass, her knuckles white. The lizard's crystalline scales, impervious to plasma fire and laser cutting tools, began to crack under the sustained pressure of Max's bite. The creature's adaptive armor worked against directed energy and kinetic projectiles, but evolution had never prepared it for the crushing force of a predator's jaws locked in a death grip. The Kraxon's own thrashing amplified the damage as Max's teeth ground deeper into its throat. Jake's combat training finally overrode his shock. He sprinted across the cargo bay, sliding under a swinging claw that would have disemboweled him. His plasma rifle might be useless against the scales, but the creature had other vulnerable points. He switched the weapon to maximum dispersion and aimed for the lizard's eyes. The blast caught the Kraxon mid-swing. It shrieked, a sound that made every human on the station clutch their ears. The creature's tail swept blindly, catching Jake in the ribs and sending him flying into a bulkhead. He felt something crack, hot pain lancing through his chest, but he kept his finger on the trigger. Another blast. Another. The lizard's face became a mess of burnt tissue and ruined sensors. Blinded and suffocating, the Kraxon lizard entered its final berserker rage. Every species in the galaxy knew to run when a cornered Kraxon went berserk. They would destroy everything within reach, fighting until their last breath. The creature's claws tore through steel plating, its tail demolished support structures, and its massive body threatened to breach the cargo bay hull. Max never let go. The dog's breathing came in short, controlled bursts through his nose. His eyes, dark and focused, never left his target. Blood matted his fur, some his own, most from the lizard. His back legs found purchase on the floor, and he began to pull, using his entire body weight as leverage. The Kraxon's thrashing grew weaker. Its movements became sluggish. Captain Hayes's voice crackled through the intercom. "Emergency bulkhead sealing in 30 seconds. All personnel evacuate the cargo bay immediately." Jake tried to stand, but his broken ribs sent white-hot agony through his torso. He looked at Max, still locked onto the dying lizard. "Max, here." "Now." The dog's ears twitched, acknowledging the command, but he didn't release. Jake knew that look. Max wouldn't let go until the threat was neutralized. It was the same stubborn determination that had made his breed legendary on Earth. The alien delegates had stopped running. One by one, they turned back to watch the carnage below. This was unprecedented. Kraxon death lizards were considered unkillable by conventional means. Military forces typically used orbital strikes or atmospheric venting to deal with escaped specimens. The idea that a simple animal one the aliens had dismissed as a pet could bring down such a creature defied everything they understood about combat efficiency. The Kraxon's movements became twitches, then nothing. Max held on for another 10 seconds, ensuring the threat was truly eliminated, before finally releasing his grip. The massive lizard collapsed, its body crushing several cargo containers beneath its weight. Max stepped back, his legs shaking from exhaustion, and calmly sat down. His tongue lolled out, and despite the blood and chaos, his tail gave a single satisfied wag. Jake laughed, then immediately regretted it as pain shot through his chest. He managed to raise his hand, and Max trotted over, remarkably steady for a dog who had just fought an alien monster. The Akita mix pressed against Jake's side, careful to avoid his injuries, and licked his face once. The emergency bulkheads finished sealing, trapping them in the cargo bay. Captain Hayes's voice came through again. "Medical team en route. Jake, status report." "Broken ribs, maybe worse. But Max is fine. The lizard is very, very dead." Through the observation window, Jake could see the alien delegates staring down at them. Ambassador Vextor's mandibles hung open, frozen in shock. Counselor Mira Wells wore a fierce grin, her eyes bright with vindicated pride. The other representatives from various species, beings who had spent months treating humans as the Council's newest and least impressive members, looked like their entire understanding of reality had just been shattered. A small alien, a Quellan with blue feathered skin, pressed closer to the glass. Its three-fingered hand made a gesture that Jake's translator identified as a request for information. Captain Hayes must have noticed because her voice came through the intercom again, this time on an open channel that the aliens could hear. For those unfamiliar with Earth biology, what you just witnessed was a domestic dog protecting its pack. Humans selectively bred these animals over 15,000 years, refining traits like loyalty, courage, and bite force. Max is an Akita cross, a breed specifically developed to hunt large predators. On Earth, we call them man's best friend. The Quellan's feathers ruffled in what Jake recognized as amazement. Ambassador Vextor finally found his voice, the translator rendering his words with an unusual note of respect. We were informed that humans kept these creatures for emotional companionship. We were told they served no practical purpose in modern society. Mira's voice joined the conversation, and Jake could hear the smile in her tone. Humans keep dogs for many reasons, Ambassador. Companionship, yes, but also for protection, for work, for hunting. And because after 15,000 years together, they are family. We do not measure worth solely by technological advancement. Part 3. The medical team arrived within 3 minutes, their equipment floating on anti-gravity sleds. Dr. Patricia Morgan, a veteran of Earth's colonial expansion, scanned Jake's injuries while 2 nurses attended to Max. The dog accepted their examination with patient dignity, only flinching when they cleaned a deep gash on his shoulder. 3 broken ribs, internal bruising, and a concussion, Patricia announced, pressing a dermal regenerator against Jake's side. The device hummed as it accelerated his body's natural healing. You will live, but you are grounded for a week. No arguments. Jake nodded, watching the nurses work on Max. What about him? Torn muscle tissue, multiple lacerations, and severe exhaustion. For a creature that just killed a Kraxon death lizard, he is remarkably intact. His bone density is impressive. I have treated combat veterans with less resilient skeletal structures. Patricia glanced at the massive corpse dominating the cargo bay. I want tissue samples from your dog. If we can understand the biomechanics of his bite force, it could revolutionize our understanding of organic weaponry. He is not a weapon, Jake said quietly. He is my friend. Patricia smiled, her expression softening. I know, but your friend just did something that will change how every species in the Council views humanity. Whether you like it or not, Max is now famous. She was right. Over the next hour, as medical teams finished their work and engineering crews began the hazardous task of removing the Kraxon's body, communication requests flooded the station. News feeds from across the galaxy picked up the story. Humans had been council members for less than a year, barely worth mentioning in most galactic news cycles. Now every major outlet wanted to know about the species that domesticated predators powerful enough to kill Kraxon lizards. Captain Hayes called an emergency meeting in the main conference room. Jake arrived with Max at his side, the dog's shoulder freshly bandaged, and his fur cleaned of blood. The room fell silent when they entered. 20 alien representatives, each from a different council species, turned to stare. Ambassador Vextor stood first, his tall frame casting shadows across the table. The insectoid approached slowly, his movements careful and deliberate. He stopped 3 feet from Max, and lowered himself into a position Jake's translator identified as a gesture of respect among his people. "I owe you an apology, Lieutenant Morrison. I mocked your companion. I called him useless. I was wrong." The translator captured the genuine shame in Vextor's clicking voice. "On my world, we have no analogous relationship with other species. We do not understand partnership with animals. I see now that this is our limitation, not yours." Before Jake could respond, Counselor Takora, a reptilian being from Sorrow's Six, spoke up. Her scales were a deep emerald green, and her vertical pupils narrowed as she studied Max. The Kraxon death lizard came from a world with 3 times Earth's gravity. Its muscle density should have made it impossible for any organic creature of similar size to harm it. "How did your dog generate sufficient force?" Jake looked down at Max, who sat calmly beside him, apparently unbothered by the attention. Akitas were bred to hunt Asian black bears, which could weigh over 400 pounds. Their bite is designed to crush bone and hold on despite violent resistance. Max is not just any dog. His genetics represent thousands of years of human selection for specific traits. "But why?" asked a Quellan scientist, her feathers quivering with curiosity. "Why would you create such a powerful predator and then keep it in your homes? Why allow it near your children? The risk seems extraordinary," Mira answered before Jake could speak. "Because we also bred for loyalty and emotional intelligence. A properly trained dog would die to protect the human child. They are not just predators. They are partners, guardians, family members who happen to have extremely effective teeth." The room erupted in overlapping conversations as the aliens tried to process this information. Captain Hayes let them talk for a moment before calling for order. "The Council has questions about Earth's domesticated species. I think we need to provide a comprehensive overview of human-animal relationships. Lieutenant Morrison, would you and Max be willing to participate in an educational presentation?" Jake felt a surge of anxiety. Public speaking had never been his strength. But then Max leaned against his leg, the dog's warm weight a steady comfort, and he felt his nerves settle. "Yes, Captain, we can do that." Over the next week, Jake and Max became the station's most unlikely celebrities. They gave presentations to xenobiologists fascinated by domestication. They demonstrated basic commands for behaviorists studying interspecies cooperation. They posed for holographic images that would be transmitted across the galaxy. Through it all, Max remained perfectly behaved, sitting when told, staying when commanded, and politely accepting treats from alien hands. But the most important meeting came on the 7th day, when Ambassador Vextor requested a private conversation. Jake arrived at the designated conference room to find the insectoid studying a holographic display showing Earth's evolutionary history. "Humans domesticated wolves," Vextor said without preamble, his translator rendering the statement with a note of wonder. "You took one of your planet's apex predators and turned it into hundreds of distinct breeds, each designed for specific tasks: hunting, herding, guarding, companionship. This is not merely animal husbandry. This is biological engineering on a scale we have never encountered." Jake sat down, Max settling beside his chair. "We have been doing it for so long that most people do not think about it. Dogs are just part of human civilization. We have had them longer than we have had agriculture." "That is what disturbs the Council," Vextor admitted. His mandibles clicked in a pattern Jake had learned meant uncertainty. If humans can create living weapons from wolves, what else might you create? What other aspects of your biology have you modified? There are species in the Council who believe humans are dangerous, precisely because you do not see the danger in what you do. The accusation hung in the air. Jake felt anger rising, but Max's calm presence helped him control it. We do not create weapons. We create companions. Yes, dogs can fight. Yes, they can kill. But they can also comfort lonely people, guide the blind, detect diseases, and rescue victims from disasters. We bred them for versatility, not just violence. Part 4, Vexthor's compound eyes reflected the holographic display, each lens capturing a different image of Earth's remarkable history. But you must understand how this appears to species who have never attempted what you call domestication. We see a race that bends other creatures to their will, that reshapes biology across generations. The Thalorian Empire sent that Kraxon lizard as a demonstration of their military might. Your dog killed it with tactics we do not fully understand. Now they are afraid. Good, Jake said flatly. Maybe they will think twice before trying to intimidate us again. The insectoid's mandibles clicked rapidly, and Jake's translator struggled to keep up with what sounded like multiple emotional states. Finally, Vexthor settled on words. The Thalorians are not the only ones concerned. Half the council believes humanity should be restricted from bringing more Earth animals into space. They call dogs biological weapons that violate the conventional arms treaty. They want Max removed from the station. Jake's hand dropped to Max's head, fingers threading through the dog's fur. Max saved lives. He stopped that lizard from killing everyone in the cargo bay. If he is a weapon, he is one pointed at the right targets. I agree, Vexthor said, surprising Jake. That is why I am here. I want to help prevent this legislation from passing, but I need your assistance. The council needs to see that dogs are not weapons. They need to understand the full scope of human-animal partnership. Over the next 2 hours, they developed a plan. Jake would give a comprehensive presentation to the full Galactic Council, demonstrating not just Max's combat capabilities, but his training, his temperament, and his role in human society. Vexthor would use his political influence to ensure maximum attendance and media coverage. If they succeeded, they might change how the galaxy viewed Earth's domesticated species. If they failed, humanity's closest companions might be banned from space. Captain Hayes approved the plan immediately. This is bigger than one dog or one station. If the council bans dogs from space, they will start questioning everything about human biology and culture. We need to control this narrative before it controls us. The presentation was scheduled for 3 weeks later, giving Jake time to prepare and heal. Patricia cleared him for light duty, though she insisted he continue regeneration treatments. Max recovered faster, his remarkable constitution earning admiring comments from every medical professional who examined him. Jake spent hours reviewing Earth's history with domesticated animals. Dogs, cats, horses, cattle, chickens, and dozens of other species. Each one represented a different aspect of humanity's ability to form partnerships with other creatures. He compiled videos, genetic data, historical records, and testimonials from people whose lives had been saved or improved by their animal companions. Mira helped him practice the presentation, offering feedback on pacing and emphasis. Remember, most of these aliens have never seen an animal that was not either food or a threat. The concept of a creature that loves you unconditionally is alien to them. You need to make them feel that bond, not just understand it intellectually. The night before the presentation, Jake could not sleep. He lay in his quarters, staring at the ceiling while Max snored softly in his bed nearby. The weight of what he was about to do pressed down on him. He was not a politician or a scientist. He was just a lieutenant who loved his dog. How was he supposed to change the minds of beings who had existed among the stars for thousands of years? Max's cold nose pressed against his hand. The dog had woken up, somehow sensing Jake's anxiety. In the dim light, Max's eyes held that same calm certainty they had shown facing the Kraxon lizard. trust, loyalty, partnership. Jake scratched behind Max's ears. We can do this, right, boy? Just you and me against the galaxy. Max's tail thumped against the floor. The presentation hall on Council Station Epsilon was designed to hold 5,000 beings. Every seat was filled. Jake stood in the preparation area watching through a monitor as representatives from over 200 species took their places. The major galactic powers occupied the front rows, Thalorians with their armored exoskeletons, Quellan with their shimmering feathers, Saurians with their ancient reptilian dignity, and dozens of others whose names Jake had only recently learned. Mira stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. You will do great. Just remember, speak from the heart. They can access any data they want from archives. What they cannot get anywhere else is the truth about what dogs mean to humans. Captain Hayes performed a final check of Jake's equipment. The presentation would be broadcast live across the galaxy, reaching billions of viewers. Latunid, you are about to become the most famous human in space. Do not let it go to your head. Jake managed a weak smile. Yes, Captain. Max sat at attention, his bandaged shoulder almost fully healed. Someone from the Council's logistics team had tried to suggest that Max remain backstage for safety reasons. Jake had flatly refused. The dog was not a prop or a weapon to be hidden away. He was Jake's partner, and they would face the Council together. The lights dimmed. A holographic announcer, a neutral AI form designed not to favor any species, materialized at the podium. Honored Council members, we gather today to address concerns regarding Earth species integration into galactic society. Lieutenant Jake Morrison of the human delegation will present information on domesticated animals, with particular focus on the species known as dogs. Please welcome our speaker. Jake walked onto the stage with Max at his side. The dog's nails clicked against the polished floor, the sound somehow audible even in the massive hall. 5,000 beings watched them cross to the podium. Jake's heart hammered, but Max's calm presence kept him grounded. They had faced a Kraxon death lizard together. They could handle a room full of politicians. Jake gripped the podium and began. 15,000 years ago, my ancestors and Max's ancestors made a choice that would change both species forever. Humans were hunter-gatherers, struggling to survive in a dangerous world. Wolves were pack predators, competing with us for food and territory. Logic suggested we should be enemies. Instead, we became family. Part 5, the holographic display behind Jake materialized, showing ancient cave paintings from France. Humans and wolves, hunting together, sleeping together, surviving together. The images were crude but powerful, speaking to a bond that transcended language. We do not know exactly how it started, Jake continued, his voice gaining strength as he fell into the rhythm of the story. Maybe a wolf pack followed human hunters, scavenging their kills. Maybe a human child found wolf puppies and brought them home. Maybe we recognized something in each other, a shared need for family and purpose. Whatever the reason, we chose each other. He gestured to Max, who stood perfectly still, his attention focused on Jake as it had been trained to be. Over thousands of years, we shaped each other. Wolves became dogs, developing new traits that made them better partners for humans. Humans changed too, developing neural pathways that respond to dog behavior. When a human sees a dog in distress, the same parts of our brain activate as when we see a human child suffering. This is not philosophy or sentiment. This is biology. We evolved together. The display shifted, showing genetic timelines and evolutionary charts. Dogs are not wolves anymore, though they share a common ancestor. They are their own species, created through what we call artificial selection. But calling it artificial misses the point. Dogs wanted to be with us as much as we wanted them with us. Every generation, the wolves who were friendlier, more cooperative, and more attuned to human emotions were the ones who thrived. They chose us just as much as we chose them. Ambassador Vextor raised a clawed hand. Lieutenant, you speak of choice, but how can we verify that dogs truly choose partnership? Perhaps they are simply conditioned through breeding to appear willing. Jake had anticipated this question. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small remote. Max, release. The command freed Max from his formal attention stance. The dog immediately relaxed, his ears dropping into a more casual position. Jake pointed to the opposite side of the stage, about 50 meters away. Max, go lie down over there. Max trotted across the stage and settled into a comfortable position, his eyes still tracking Jake, but his body language showing complete ease. The audience watched in silence. Jake walked to the edge of the stage, as far from Max as the space allowed. Max has food, water, and a comfortable place to rest. He has been trained to stay when commanded. By every measure, he should be content where he is. Jake paused, letting the tension build. But watch what happens when I do this. He sat down on the stage floor and lowered his head, mimicking distress. Within 3 seconds, Max was on his feet. Within 5, he was running across the stage. Within 7, he was pressed against Jake's side, whining softly and licking his face. The hall erupted in surprised chatter. Jake looked up at the audience, Max's warm weight solid against him. I gave him no command. I offered no reward. He came because he sensed I needed him. This is not conditioning. This is partnership. This is love. He stood, Max rising with him. The Kraxon lizard that Max killed was 3 times his size and covered in armor that our best weapons cannot penetrate. Logic said Max should run. Survival instinct said he should hide. But he saw a threat to his pack, to me, and logic became irrelevant. He fought because that is what family does. The display shifted again, showing dozens of different dog breeds. Tiny Chihuahuas next to massive Great Danes. Sleek Greyhounds beside fluffy Pomeranians. Working Border Collies compared to gentle Golden Retrievers. We created over 300 distinct breeds, each specialized for different tasks, but every single one of them shares the same core traits: loyalty, emotional intelligence, and the capacity to love humans unconditionally. A Thalorian representative stood, his armored form imposing even at a distance. You speak of love, Lieutenant, but your dog killed one of our finest specimens. How do we know that this capacity for violence will not be turned against us? What prevents dogs from attacking aliens? Jake met the Thalorian's gaze steadily. Training, socialization, and human guidance. Max attacked the Kraxon because it was a clear threat that had already broken containment and was about to kill people. He did not attack any of the alien delegates in the cargo bay, even though he could have. He distinguished between threat and non-threat because I taught him to do so. He walked to the front of the stage, Max matching his pace perfectly. Let me demonstrate. Ambassador Vextor, would you please join me on stage? The insectoid hesitated, then rose from his seat. The audience watched in absolute silence as Vextor climbed the stage stairs and approached Jake and Max. The dog's eyes tracked the alien's movement, but he remained calm. Max, this is Ambassador Vextor. He is a friend. Jake took the ambassador's clawed hand and placed it on Max's head. The dog accepted the touch, his tail giving a small wag. Good boy, Max, good boy. Vextor's mandibles clicked rapidly. Jake's translator rendered it as wonder. He is warm and soft. I did not expect either of those things from a creature capable of such violence. That is the point, Jake said softly. Dogs contain multitudes. They can be fierce guardians and gentle companions. They can hunt prey and comfort children. They are complex beings, just like us. Reducing them to weapons or pets misses everything important about who they are. The Thalarian spoke again. But what of other Earth animals? You have mentioned horses, cats, and others. Should we expect similar demonstrations from all of them? Jake smiled. Each species is different. Horses gave humans mobility and power. Cats controlled pests and provided companionship. Cattle, sheep, and chickens gave us food and materials, but the principle is the same. Partnership. We did not conquer these animals. We found ways to live together where both species benefited. He brought up a final holographic image, showing Earth from space. Billions of humans and billions of animals, all living in the complex web of relationships that defined human civilization. This is what makes humanity unique in the galaxy. We do not see ourselves as separate from the natural world. We see ourselves as part of it. Our animals are not tools or resources. They are companions, partners, and family. The presentation concluded with a compilation of videos Jake had collected. A dog guiding a blind person through a crowded street. A cat sleeping peacefully with a newborn baby. A horse carrying supplies to a remote village. A dolphin helping fishermen by herding fish into nets. Each clip showed the same theme: cooperation between species, trust built over generations, love that transcended evolutionary boundaries. Jake returned to the podium for his closing statement. The Council has every right to be cautious about Earth species entering galactic society. But I ask you to judge us not by your fears, but by our actions. Max could have run from the Kraxon. Instead, he fought. I could have left him behind when I came to space. Instead, I brought him because a universe without dogs is not a universe I want to live in. Humans and our animal partners are a package deal. We do not want to threaten you. We want to share with you what we have learned in 15,000 years of partnership. We want to show you that strength and gentleness are not opposites. They are two sides of the same bond. He looked down at Max, who gazed back with absolute trust. This dog would die for me. I would die for him. That is not weakness. That is the strongest thing I know. And if the Council cannot accept that, then perhaps we are not ready for each other after all. The hall remained silent for 3 long seconds. Then Ambassador Vexthor stood, his tall frame rising above the crowd. He began a slow, rhythmic clicking that Jake's translator identified as applause in his species. One by one, other aliens joined him. The Quellan added their harmonic chirping. The Saurians thumped their tails. Even the Thalorian representative made a grudging sound of approval. The vote took place 3 days later. By a margin of 72%, the Council rejected the proposed ban on Earth animals in space. More than that, they opened discussions about establishing cultural exchange programs to help other species understand human-animal relationships. Several delegates expressed interest in learning whether similar partnerships might be possible with species from their own worlds. Jake and Max returned to their normal duties on the station, but nothing was quite the same. Aliens who had previously ignored them now stopped to ask questions or request permission to pet Max. The dog handled his celebrity status with the same patient dignity he showed everything else, accepting attention when offered, but never demanding it. One evening, Jake sat in his quarters writing a message to his family back on Earth. Max slept nearby, his paws twitching as he dreamed. The door chimed and Captain Hayes entered. "Lieutenant, I have news. The Council wants to establish a formal program training dogs for space station security. They are asking if you would be willing to oversee it. Jake looked at Max, then back to the captain.
Training other handlers, you mean? Training handlers and dogs both. They want to create teams like you and Max.
Partnerships that can protect stations without relying solely on weapons and force fields. What do you say? Jake thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Yes, Captain. We will do it. 6 months later, the first class of human dog teams graduated from the newly established Interspecies Partnership Academy. 20 handlers from different human colonies, each paired with a dog selected for temperament and ability. They would serve on stations across Council space, protecting and serving alongside aliens who are learning to see dogs as partners rather than pets or weapons. Jake stood with Max at the graduation ceremony, watching the new teams demonstrate their skills. He thought about that moment in the cargo bay when Max had charged a creature 3 times his size. The galaxy had laughed at the human's pet. They were not laughing anymore. They were learning what humans had known for 15,000 years. The strongest bonds are not forged in steel or powered by technology. They are built on trust, loyalty, and love. They are built between species who chose each other and never looked back.